Johnson providing you Band-Aids for a better world. So, Scott, can we get your opinion a little bit about this shock that people are feeling? Which, frankly, I feel some resentment about this, because you could see this before Obama was even sworn in. There was an interview between Barack Obama and George Stephanopoulos. To this guy's pop media credit, he tried to press Obama on whether or not the CIA would continue taking these so-called detainees and giving them harsh interrogation techniques. He wouldn't answer. He kept saying, the military is not going to do this, which wasn't the question. Can you address, for some of the people who are out there maybe first hearing about us or first hearing about you, why they should look at Barack Obama as just a continuation in most respects of the anti-constitutional, anti-moral Bush policies when it comes to things like these civil liberties?
Well, as you said in your introduction, you can just go down the list. I would argue that he's, maybe 1% better, but since George Bush was probably 20% worse than Bill Clinton, that still leaves us in a really bad spot here. As far as I know, I believe Obama has announced that he, by executive order, has banned the interrogation techniques. In that assertion, of course, is built in the premise that the authority is his by the Military Commissions Act to decide whether to torture people or not.
Right.
And, in fact, he may even be invoking Bush's signing statement to the Military Commissions Act. He's not referencing the fact that torture is already a felony 5 times in the United States of America, and there's 2 treaties on top of that. He's, assuming that power in the Military Commissions Act to make that decision himself. So, as far as I understand, the torture, as far as interrogation, has officially stopped. However, if you look at Jeremy Scahill's incredible reporting at Alternet and at Antiwar.com about Obama's thug squad beating people down there at Guantanamo Bay, you'll see the torture hasn't stopped, just the torture as interrogation. If you're familiar, Guard, with any of the prison documentaries they show on TV, MSNBC or what have you, and they'll have, when a guy gets completely unruly in his cell, they send in a 5-man team to beat him up and put him in handcuffs, that kind of thing, right?
Right.
But Guantanamo Bay, these guys are the most brutal thugs that you could imagine in charge of this. And they raid these guys' cells, and they literally torture them and beat them within an inch of their life whenever they feel like it. And this has not only not stopped under Barack Obama, it's gotten worse.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, as part of the Spanish investigation into Bush war crimes against Spanish citizens held at Guantanamo Bay, they have uncovered a lot of this. And, again, it was Jeremy Scahill, an incredible article at Alternet. It's probably a 5,000-word article or something, explains how they do this to these men. And it's kind of sad that this is maybe the most shocking part that'll get people's attention, but they did it to an American practicing on him, but they didn't know he was a soldier. The guys who were practicing, he was told that if he said red, that was the safe word, and they would stop. But nobody told them that this is an American soldier and stop if he says red, and this is just practice. They went in there, and they tortured him so badly and choked him so badly, he's now got permanent brain damage and 12 seizures a day. This is once. This happened once to this guy.
Wow.
This is what the prisoners at Guantanamo are going through all the time. Obviously, direct violations of the Geneva Conventions and all the statutes that apply to how prisoners of war are to be treated. And but I guess they're not prisoners of war, are they? They're not enemy combatants either, Guard. You know what they are? We don't know what they are.
That's
the
exactly
administration has not come up with a new, phony legal definition for these people. They're not enemy combatants. They're not unlawful combatants. They're not prisoners of war. They're detainees. And
That's
they're
right.
detainees because that doesn't mean anything.
That's
but
right.
That is a term that takes the Obama administration outside the law, just the way they inherited the the entire thing from George W. Bush and Dick Cheney.
We're speaking with Scott Horton, Antiwar.com and Antiwar Radio, and Scott and I have known each other. We got to speak once on my radio program, and now we get to speak on my website. And Scott, I'm glad we're speaking now because we have a really nice audience, pretty good size audience that I hope people will go to the websites and see what you do and think about contributing over at Antiwar.com because I don't even know how you soak up all this information. It's incredible, and you do great work, man. So hats off to you. And also
interviews. What happens is I read all these great articles, and then, for example, I get Jeremy Scahill on the air, and then I get to ask him all the questions about his article that I have, and by the end of that, I've pretty much learned it.
You've absorbed it all. It's good.
Have in the world.
Yep. Something that strikes me, Scott, is how transparent it was in 2002 when, and I've mentioned this numerous times on our website and on my radio program, when the Bush administration sent Alberto Gonzales, who was then White House counsel, over to Congress and actually asked them not to declare war. I've had conversations with Ron Paul about this, and of course his son Rand now, who's running for Senate, he was aware of it. We've had conversations. And it's amazing to me that the transparency is not there for the American public to see that they intentionally did not want war declared because they thought they could skirt the Geneva Accords, which, as you know and as so many other people know who are within the libertarian circles, if you actually read the Geneva Conventions and you read Common Article 3, it doesn't matter whether you've declared war or you haven't declared war. If they are on,
sure that's the reason why they didn't declare war.
Exactly. They thought that they could get around it, and it just to me that arrogance, that conceit, that they think that they can get away with this stuff, just really makes my blood boil. It gets me so angry. But it continues apace. Now we've got even more happening with the Obama administration, continuing along the lines of the welfare warfare state here, don't we?
Yeah, well, and all completely outside of the rule of law. I'm sure most of your listeners know that the United States Congress has not declared war and assumed their responsibility for starting a war since they declared war on Germany in 1941.
Yeah.
And ever since then, what we've had is either, like Truman just took the troops in the middle of the night and sent them to Korea and invoked the UN resolution. I guess for major conflicts since then, not including Grenada and Panama, they've gotten a congressional resolution to authorize that the president has the authority, according to the Congress, to carry out the decision. As you pointed out earlier, there's nothing in Article 2 that gives the Congress the power to delegate their authority to the president that way, and so therefore they're forbidden from doing so by the rule of law. But I don't even, George Bush did strikes inside Pakistan as well, I guess. But Barack Obama is continuing that on. There has been no authorization of any kind to put our guys in Pakistan. Now, in fact, it may just be that they're invoking, and I'm pretty sure they're just invoking the authorization to use military force because it didn't say Afghanistan in there either. The authorization for George Bush to go to war against Al-Qaeda that came out just a few days after the attacks in 2001.
Right. Yes.
It was written very vaguely, and it gave the president to determine who did it, and not only to punish them, but to use whatever force is necessary to stop any other attacks like that may ever come. And that is basically an open-ended blank check for not just one president, but now two.
We're seeing this.
And here's the thing, too. This isn't just about legal technicality. I mean, the rule of law is the rule of law, and if the Constitution creates this government, then it binds it, or else what are we doing here? This is ridiculous.
Well, you said
what's really important here is they're destroying Pakistan. They've created over 2 million refugees now, Guard, and that's just consequences unmeasured rolling downhill from there. I mean, this is another new start to another horrible foreign policy disaster. I mean, George Bush dropped the bomb on them here and there. Barack Obama has got a full-scale offensive by the Pakistani army, but still, it's his doing.
Wow.
He and Hillary Clinton's doing. A full-scale war going on up there in the northwestern tribal territories. And they're not getting Ayman al-Zawahiri, and they're not getting Osama bin Laden, but they are destroying the lives of millions of people, so we can be sure that there will be a further excuse for further intervention created by the catastrophe from this one.
Scott Horton is with us, folks. Antiwar.com. Go there and check it out. And you can see the link over to Antiwar Radio and listen to these great interviews he's done. And, Scott, I had read a little bit about the refugees streaming out of Pakistan. And it's such a sad, sad story because those people are already so poor. But, beyond this, the clear and, I think, very emotional, sentimental side of it, where you feel terrible about the fact that your tax money is being used to fund this and drive these people out of their homes, there's the self-preservation side of it too, which is has been brought up by a few people on the freedom side and a few people on the sort of mixture of the freedom side and the socialist side about the U.S. foreign policy. And oftentimes you'll get people on the neocon side accusing you of blaming America for 9/11 when you actually say, hey, you know what? When the U.S. troops go in there, or we're funding one side or another side in some conflict between the Palestinians and the Israelis, or we're giving money to this or that group, or we're sending our troops in to advise people in Afghanistan or whatever it might be, we get blowback on this stuff. If you're dropping bombs and killing people's brothers and husbands and wives and kids, that's not exactly gonna quash the anger and resentment. It's going to feed it more, and they're going to find out ways to hit you harder, to try to get you even more. That's how Osama bin Laden recruited these people. It didn't have to do with pornography or action movies or anything like that in United States culture. It had to do with the United